So today I want to talk about a new organizational paradigm that's completely transforming how we build companies, how we work, and ultimately how we're going to shape economies. There's three important components to this new structure. Excess capacity is being harnessed on a platform for participation, and we're inviting in a group of peers to participate. And it's this structure that I'm calling Peers, Inc., and it's really reinventing the collaborative economy. It's inventing the collaborative economy and reinventing capitalism. It's a structure that you will actually recognize, because all of these companies that we have been talking about for the last 15 years share this structure. And I threw down this long list here on the side to make you realize that it's happening it's everywhere. So the free and open source movement would be a Peers, Inc. collaboration. And Lending Club and Prosper, massive online open courses. When we talk about crowdsourcing and crowdfunding, co-working, all of this has this structure. And if I look at this list here, things that are incredibly remarkable as an entrepreneur is to look like Skype. Skype is built on my laptop I paid for, my video camera I paid for, my internet access I paid for, and they built a telecommunications company with my stuff. So all of these companies are leveraging other people's assets, and not just assets. So I want to talk to you about the whole piece. If I think about this idea of excess capacity, it is fundamentally sharing. Because if I'm dealing with excess capacity, I'm not controlling the entire asset. I'm having to share it with someone else. And my favorite example would be bed sharing. And I know you guys know where I'm going. Do you guys do some bed sharing? I do a lot of bed sharing, because I travel a lot. And if I'm lucky, I get to stay in my friend's, multi-purposed guest bedroom. Or if I'm really lucky, I get a double bed. If I'm unlucky, they told the teenager to go sit on the couch and sleep on the couch. So I think, ick. This is why they invented hotels. Because who wants to sleep in those sheets? And it's where you can stay when you don't have a friend there. And so hotels are fundamentally bed sharing. So you know what I'm going to say. Here's the InterContinental Hotel Group. They've been around for 65 years, and they built 650,000 rooms in 100 countries. And we can know that that was an enormous amount of work, because Hilton has been at it for 93 years and hasn't been as big. Airbnb, in its fourth year, had 650,000 rooms. And this is where you say, can you believe it? Like, oh my God, what happened? The world's changed, that in 4 years, you can be bigger than someone who's been at it for 65. Couchsurfing has been around for 9 years. In their 9th year, they had 2.5 million rooms to stay in. So the question is, what is going on? Like, how can this be happening? I've been thinking about, why did we invent industries and companies and organizations? We invented them to do things that we as individuals can't do. And what is it that we can't do? If it's something that costs millions of dollars. Don't ask me, I don't have millions of dollars, we have to create an organization for that. If it's going to be something that requires a lot of diverse skills, I'm brilliant at 2 things. If it's going to take 10 or 20 things, we have to build an organization or a government. If it's something that requires standards or standardization, I'm a puny person. I can't force you guys to do anything. You don't care what I think. Those are all bound as ancestral strengths. On the flip side, we have individual strengths that we are way better at than companies. And I would say those are localization and customization and specialization. Big companies can do those things. They hate doing them. They're very expensive. And if you think of the last 100 years of industrialization, it has been all about getting rid of the local, customized, and specialized, and delivering this big standardized thing so we could get economies of scale. Clearly, these 2 things are incredibly complementary. And what is transformed today is that we now can take care, dealing with lots of small parts is no longer an issue because of the internet. And we had this possibility of a brand new collaboration that I'm calling Peers, Inc. And so each side is doing what they do best and leaving on the table what the other guys to do their part. The Inc. builds this platform for participation, and my slides, and the peers deliver a diversity of offering. And to simplify this, I think of it as a kind of yin-yang. It's very, very complementary and symbiotic collaboration, and each side leaves on the table enough for the other. And I'm going to just go quickly through these. I adore excess capacity because I'm an environmentalist, and it's very, very resource efficient. And I adore it because it's very cost efficient. And as an entrepreneur, man, do I want to use excess capacity. So I'm defining this term as something that already exists, it's already been paid for, but there's more value there. And I want you to think about not just cars and houses, but all kinds of assets, temporal, virtual, networks, experiences. And once you can identify that, and when you're using excess capacity, completely transform the economics of it, because you're not having to pay for that asset. There's 3 ways that you can deal with it. The first thing is that you can slice it, and that's what Zipcar did. When it lets you rent a car by the hour instead of buying a whole one, you don't have to pay your $9,000 a year to own and operate a car. You can just pay for what you use. So we took this big asset and we sliced it and uncovered its excess capacity. Or you can aggregate, and this is what Airbnb did. It took 1 million little tiny spaces around the world and put them all together on one platform with one unified insurance product, and the same ways to pay and communicate so people can compare and contrast. It has a wholly different look and feel than those 1 million individual places. And the third thing you can do with excess capacity, which is incredibly powerful, is to open it up and say, hey, I've got this cool thing, what do you guys think about it? What ideas do you have? And an example there would be open data. And so McKinsey did this nice report. 40 countries have now opened up their data that they collected for census or for whatever ways they collected it. They've now released 1 million data sets, and McKinsey says, you know what, there's $3 trillion worth of value there. So just imagine $3 trillion that can be a value that can be extracted out of something that was sitting in servers and in file drawers. If we think about the ink side, it delivers platform, and it's platformness, and this is what I love about it. So it organizes all the small parts, it makes complex things very, very simple, and very importantly, it gives the power of the large to the small. And you get these economies of scale and high growth as well. My favorite example here is BlaBlaCar, which is real ride sharing, as I'm going from Paris to Berlin in my own car, and I have 3 extra seats. So BlaBlaCar started in about 2006, and this growth curve is very typical for platform companies. It takes a long time to get them to be right, and most of them fail. But if you can get it right, it has this exponential growth. So today, BlaBlaCar is transporting 4 million people every month, which is the same as 10,000 high-speed trains or 10,000 747s, but they did not lay a track, buy a train car. It's phenomenal. So what do the peers deliver? The peers deliver diversity. Yesterday we heard a lot about diversity, and this is why this business model rocks and why it beats out every other business model, because it's this diversity that delivers the innovation and resilience and the redundancy. My favorite example here would be the smartphone and apps. The smartphone is a platform. It costs hundreds of millions of dollars to do it, and the apps are developed by people who are bringing their life experiences in their particular sectors to this asset and saying, what can you do with this? Smartphones have been around about 8 years, and in those 8 years, we've seen 2 million apps have been developed. I think it's got to be the most explosive innovation in the history of humans, and it's because we've been empowered by this app, and the complexity has been dramatically reduced. What I adore about this Peers Inc. paradigm is that it has these characteristics that I think of as miraculous. And so before I tell you what the miracles are, I want to depress you deeply and quickly, and then I will pull you out of it. So the most depressing thing I know is climate change. And here's what it looked like globally. 2015 was so hot. Scientists tell us that business as usual, if we do everything we do today, we will see +5 and 6 degrees global warming by 2100. And if you're like me, you have no idea what does it feel like to move and warm a planet by that amount. So I went and looked at past, and I said, what did it feel like when it was -4 degrees? It was the last ice age. Where we're standing today and where I sleep in my bed in Boston was under several kilometers of ice. So if you want to know what it feels like to warm a planet just by 4 degrees centigrade, it's us being under several kilometers of ice to today. And we're doing that amount forward in 80 years. So when they say it's a crisis, it's because humans have never lived at these temperatures, and most people will be dead. People cannot survive at these temperatures. So we just had the climate agreement, which is fantastic, but the question is, how quickly can we get there? My friend Benny Banerjee has this great sentence: you can't solve exponential problems with linear solutions, and that is indeed our challenge. And so I want to say, try Peers Inc. So now for these miracles. The first miracle, because we're leveraging excess capacity, we can defy the laws of physics, by which I mean, if in 2000, instead of saying, I'm going to invent Zipcar, I said, I'm going to invent the largest hotel in the world, and I'm going to build 650,000 rooms in 4 years, everyone would have said, that's physically impossible, you cannot do it. So here is what business as usual asset building would look like, and here's Airbnb's growth curve. Why? Because they leveraged existing excess capacity on a platform for participation and invited everyone in. So when I think about climate change and the challenges we have to adopt this kind of structure. Miracle number 2. Because we're building on platforms for participation, we can tap exponential learning. Learning is all about the number of iterations you can get. So as an individual, I have my life to learn things, and we always think companies are on a faster learning curve. Platforms are even get more iterations behind them. And my favorite example here is how quickly can you learn a foreign language, and the unit of measurement is what can you learn in a semester of university, which is 130 hours. It used to be that the Rosetta Stone was the number 1 because it was 54 hours you would learn it. You think, wow, that's amazing. My new favorite company is Duolingo. Their CEO tells me that he does everything, every question they ask is an A/B test. And in 24 hours, 150,000 people will have taken that A/B test, and he'll know precisely which is the better way to teach a language. Today, he will teach you reliably a semester of foreign language in 34 hours. Pretty incredible. And just to say it's reliable, here is Duolingo's growth curve. They're just over 3 years old. 105 million people are learning to speak a foreign language on Duolingo. And just think about this excess capacity. It was something we threw away before. How does Robin fail on tests? No one thought that was interesting before. And here's this man, Louis van Aan, who said, you know what, there's really interesting stuff to be uncovered there. Miracle number 3, because we're working with a diversity of peers, the right person will appear. And I don't mean Superman like, who cares? He's strong and can fly. You guys with your smartphones are already way better than him. My example here would be back to Airbnb. Obama in December of 2014 said, you know what? I think I'm going to normalize relations with Cuba. 6 months later, Airbnb had 2,000 listings. This is the only way you can have this kind of speed. So the thing to remember is Peers Inc. is a collaboration. These two things cannot happen unless both sides are working. So we can have exponential growth because the platforms organized everything and the peers have co-invested on it. You can't tap exponential learning if you don't have the hundreds of thousands of crazy ways that we do things with our own innovation and creativity, and the platform that's doing the analysis and saying, here's best practices, I'm going to make those easier, here's worst practices, stop doing them. And the right person can't appear unless the platform has attracted us and does that heavy analysis. And because we are there, the platform will pull the needle out of the haystack and say, here you are. So to conclude, we are profoundly moving away from what I think of as industrial capitalism, which I would define as companies that put a very strong barrier around themselves with patents and copyrights and trademarks and certifications. And that used to be the way to extract the most value, but it is no longer because the internet exists. Today, this new collaborative economy, as you know, is very fuzzy boundaries. Is this a private asset or a public asset? Am I an employee? Am I not an employee? All of it is all mixed up, and I'm going to leave you with 4 principles that for me are so true, and which is why I profoundly know we are moving to this new space. And so when I tell you these 4 things, if you agree with me, you too believe we are moving to this new way of getting value. So number 1, if we think about assets, shared networked assets always deliver more value than closed proprietary ones. They do it 2 ways: that asset is used more efficiently, or brand new value is extracted. So shared networked assets deliver more value. If we think about people, you guys in this room are incredibly smart, but we've always known there's more smart people outside of this room. Because we are now networked and connected, more networked minds are smarter, more creative, more intelligent, more anything you want than people inside a company or inside a country or inside any organization, because now we can tap the whole minds of the world. If we think about the value of why do this, the benefits and opportunities, the benefits and opportunities of shared open assets are always larger than the problems associated with them. So if we think about Zipcar and the people who did not invest in it, they would say, oh, people are going to damage the cars and you can never make it work. That's true. A very small percentage of the people are jerks and do damage the cars, and that problem arises, we spy it, we penalize them, if they keep doing it, we push them out. In the meantime, 1 million people are sharing 13,000 cars around the world. Lastly, I'm very selfish. I don't care about anyone else. I only think about my own self-interest. When I participate in these, I always get more than I give. I edit an article on Wikipedia, and I personally, Robin Chase, have access to 4 million entries in the English language encyclopedia. So I put in my little tiny piece, and I get access to the whole. So what I know about this peers Inc. structure. It is the structure for these dynamic times. We have climate change pounding down on us. We have technology change. We have what is the future of work? What is the future of capitalism? But what I know is that this structure is the one that allows us to experiment, iterate, adapt, and evolve at incredible, incredible pace. So I have written a book on this, and I'm not asking you to buy the book. What I'm asking you is these are critical, critical discussion ideas, and we have to get them out because we are all on an edge of a kind of abyss unless we realize what's happening. So I want to ask you guys, I'm going to do a little quiz, okay? One question quiz, audience participation. My question for you is, do you think existing companies and existing governments are going to evolve fast enough to address climate change and income inequality, or will they be too slow and we will have a revolution of the people? And think about Brexit. So the question for you guys is going to be evolution or revolution. And I want to do this anonymously. So everyone close your eyes. I'm seeing some open eyes. Close your eyes. Evolution, raise your hands. Okay, hands down. Revolution, raise your hands. Everyone, please open your eyes and look around. I was speaking to a person who does peacekeeping, and when I told her I was getting this answer from audiences, she blanched. And she said, oh my God, do people not understand what revolution is? Which is a terrible 30 years of calamity and chaos and suffering. You guys feel this way, and we do not want that revolution choice. All of you need to adopt, let me rephrase that. My personal mission in life right now is to speed the pace of evolution to avoid revolution. And you guys just looked around the room and you see your fellow revolutionaries. You have to move faster. We all have to move faster. We have to push this forward in a nicer, gentler way so we don't end up with that other extreme. So thank you.
Want to be in the audience next time? Click here for tickets to Inspirefest 2017.